Hi everyone. Okay, so I have a review here for you, a Stilazzi airbrush compressor, and then I'm going to also talk a little bit about compressors and airbrushes, just to give you like a general overview for you guys out there who don't know too much about it. So there's a bunch of different kinds of compressors out there. There's diaphragm compressors, which are, they're smaller usually and they're more affordable, and they pulsate. So they vibrate quite a bit and you'll hear like a little pulsating noise, I guess. And then they're also kind of noisy. So, most of the airbrushing kits that are out there for foundations and things like that are diaphragm compressors. There's oilless compressors, which are usually like those compressors that are about this big, usually. And then they have like a little water trap chamber that's a glass tube that gathers moisture. So they also offer like higher pressures. They're also loud and they vibrate quite a bit. They're moderately priced, so they're not as affordable as the diaphragm ones. They usually have an auto shut off, so it'll, you know, if you're not using it, it'll shut off by itself, so it's not constantly vibrating and building up pressure. And they need to, bleed moisture, and that's what that little moisture trap is for. Another kind is the CO2 tank, so that is basically a compressed air tank. Those ones are very quiet, so you don't really hear anything, just the air coming out of the airbrush, actual airbrush. And they are, I guess, they're moderately priced. They're somewhat portable because those tanks can be pretty heavy, and they can be inconvenient to refill. So if you have your tank and then all of a sudden you run out, you actually need to go and refill the tank, which other compressors, you just plug them into the wall and that's fine. And basically, if you have a leak in your hose or somewhere, you can actually freeze the hose and it'll break. So you have to make sure that there's no leaks when you're using the CO2 tanks. And then there's another one, and another one is the piston compressor. So piston compressor is, they're huge. They're usually used for industrial purposes. You can also set them up to do multiple airbrush guns. And they're really loud. So if you're ever in a place that's using one, you hear it from across the building basically. And they can be used, and they're expensive. So the compressor that Stilazzi sent me is a little diaphragm compressor here. So it is manufactured by Sparmax, and this one is called the No Strings Attached Portable Compressor, and this goes for $250 on their site. And it's kind of so small, it kind of reminds me of a fish tank air pump. So I guess the PSI is approximately 4 to 26, and comes with two international power supplies. Now, one power supply is actually for the compressor, so this one here is for the compressor, and this one here is to charge the rechargeable battery that comes with it. So this right here is the rechargeable battery. So if you really want to be portable, then you can. So both of these adapters run like on worldwide voltages. So it's like 110 volt to 240 volt, 50, 60 hertz. It also comes with this carry case here, which is pretty cool. It has compartments where you can put the compressor, so like this, into it, and then you can put the battery in it as well. And then it has the two little holes here where you can plug in the adapter, and then you can also plug in your airbrush hose so that you can just wear it, or you can hook it onto your belt and everything. So that's really nice for kind of like a hands-free, thing where you're touching up something on the go. And then it also comes with a 6-foot braided cord. Now braided cords are really nice and everything because they're more durable. If you've done a lot of airbrushing, you know that you step on these all the time. And so, the nylon braiding on it actually really helps to protect the hose, and it lasts a lot longer because, guaranteed you're gonna step on a hose. And then it also comes with a bleed valve. So this here helps regulate the airflow into your airbrush. Now, this is something that's basically mandatory for me to use for like with a compressor. If I can't control the airflow, basically all it's good for is just airbrushing foundation, and you can't really use it for anything like, you know, effects or products with different viscosities. So this is definitely a must. So some of the things I really like about this compressor is that you can use it internationally, so the adapters are for worldwide. All you need to do is buy the little prongs so that you can plug it into the wall properly. The battery makes it truly portable, so you actually have like no wires attached. And it has very decent airflow, so you never really need to go higher than 30 psi on somebody's face. So you know, 4 to 26 psi is perfect. You know, 4 is you want 4 for like spattering and freckling and things like that for effects. And you know, the higher psi is good for really thick viscous products. The bag also makes it very convenient, so you can use the bag here, you know, and you don't have to sit your compressor down on a rock if you don't want to, or if it's wet or raining outside. You know, like you don't really want to put it down on water or anything like that, so that's perfect. And the braided hose is actually much more durable than just like the rubber hose. You know, you don't have to be constantly afraid of that you're going to step on the hose or anything like that. So if you do step on the hose, then it's not the end of the world. And some of the things that I think that, you know, could be improved on by it, I know that this compressor is made by Sparmax, but one thing is that the compressor attachment on the hose is actually plastic. Now, for me, that's kind of an issue because if you're constantly packing it up, you know, you're unscrewing it and screwing it back on, screwing it and unscrewing it back on, it could strip. So that's the one thing that I would be kind of afraid of, because I don't know how to replace it or what I can replace it with if it ever does. The runtime on the compressor is only 30 minutes before I think it may start to overheat. So if you're doing like an extensive airbrush project, you know, you need to have somewhat of a break kind of in between, and you should let it cool down. Now, for me, you know, if I'm going to be doing a longer project and stuff, I would just kind of shut it down in between me doing other things. So that's not too much of an issue, but you know, if you have something huge to airbrush, then that could be a problem. And the last one is it's kind of a compact compressor, so you know, you can't really expect too much. But I was thinking like an airbrush holder, like just like a little something that snaps onto it that holds an airbrush, because if you have a bunch of product inside of the cup, you know, you can't let it sit down like on its side or anything else, so you actually need something to sit on. And I mean, I have an airbrush holder, you know, like the clamp is clamped down over here, but if you have to pack that anyways, you may as well have something that kind of attaches to the airbrush. But anyway, so that is the cons to this compressor. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about airbrushes. So basically airbrushing is, it's actually quite fun. Now you can use airbrushes for applying foundation, you can use it for tattoo cover, you can use it for effects, so like splattering, texturing, highlighting, contouring, coloring. You can use it for like stencil art, or even just like, you know, painting canvases and everything, or graffiti art. And you can also use it for nail art. And I'm sure there's like a billion other things that you can use airbrushes for as well. So different kinds of airbrushing mediums would be like, like here, like golden paints. So these are the acrylic paints that I use for effects and everything like that. You can also use airbrushing foundations. So I have these ones here that you can use, and you can mix them and everything to people's skin tones, or you can make your own. So you can take, let's say, your Revlon Color Stay or your MAC Studio Fix, like the silicone based foundations, and you can mix them like 1 part to 1 part with 244 fluid, and that's like a silicone thinner. And if you mix those together, it makes it thin enough for you to actually airbrush with. I believe you can also airbrush MAC Face and Body and any other kind of water-based, really thin foundations. You can also thin out or mask grease paint, So that's what you use on like latex and bulb caps and things like that. You have to use that kind because it's made out of castor oil and it won't make the latex break. It's kind of like a condom. If you put, you know, like an oil on it besides castor oil, it will break. And then there's also Temp 2 and I think PPI. They make plastic paints. So it's thin enough to airbrush, and basically it's like it's not semi-permanent, but it lasts for a couple days. So if you need an effect to last for a few days on somebody, then you can use the plastic paints, and it's very, very durable. It can get wet and you won't have an issue. Okay, so there's several different kinds of airbrushes that you can use. There's like single action, there's double action, there's siphon feed, there's gravity feed, and there's like internal and external atomization. So my airbrush here, this one here, is the Iwata Revolution CR. So it is a double action, so that means that you press down to release air and pull back to release product. So, and you can control like somewhat airflow, and then you can also control the amount of product that comes out. And it's also a gravity feed. So that means that the product just naturally kind of goes down into the airflow. It's an internal atomization. So external atomization is like putting water in your hand and blowing it. So the product is just sitting there and you just kind of, you know, randomly blow it, where this is kind of, it mixes the air and the product and then it shoots it out. I also have a link below too to show a really great site. This is the Golden Paints, the manufacturer of this. Their website has a really good explanation of different airbrushes and compressors and all that other kind of stuff. So if you go check that out. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a demo of the compressor and how it sounds, and show you just a couple little interesting things with the airbrush. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys the sound that it makes. And I'm just going to put this on the floor while I use it here. Okay, so I just pulled out the black golden paint and I just put a couple drops in my airbrush. And I have this turned all the way open so that it lets all the air out. So this is the highest PSI. And I'm just going to turn on the compressor. And that's what it sounds like when it's on the floor. And I just have like a scrap piece of paper here, and I'll show you. That's basically, and the further back you go, so before you airbrush on somebody, you should always refresh on a piece of paper, because you have to get the feeling of the air gun again, or the airbrush again. So yeah, so you can make little tiny holes just depending on how far back you pull back. Or you can make big ones like that. The further back you go, of course, the more spatter it's going to be, or the more diffuse. So now I'll show you, I pulled it out. Now I've pretty much closed it all the way. And so that's the least PSI, so about 4 PSI. And you get kind of like a spatter effect. I don't know if you can actually see that. So the spots are larger. So my airbrush actually has like 2 different kinds of nozzles. And if you actually remove both nozzles like this, be careful, you don't want to drop it because that's your needle there, and if you bend it, you're gonna have to buy a new needle. And now I'm going to turn it on the lowest again, and I'm going to show you spattering. So if you just keep on going like that, you get a lot of freckling. And that's really good for effects, because that's actually like kind of like textures for skin and things like that. So it shows up like that. So that is my review of the compressor and my little overview of compressors and airbrushing. Please go to my blog. I have some photos and things like that of the compressor. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.